All right. Welcome to the Fusion 360 CAD tutorial number 2. We're going to be talking about circles and spheres really fast. Hopefully, we're going to try and get this under 10 minutes. So, you may have noticed in the last video, when we were making sketches, the center diameter circle icon up here. And if you press C, it indeed creates a prompt to make a circle. And over here in the feature options, you can select the different type of circle to make. But the one that we're going to use the most, and you can experiment with some of these on your own, the one we're going to use the most is the one where you click to make the center of the circle, and then you drag and enter a number to indicate its diameter. So say we make a 3-inch diameter circle, right? Fairly straightforward. Then we can click on this and extrude it. So if we do that, and we can make it whatever height we want. And yeah, there we go. I didn't press enter hard enough apparently. And now we have, I guess, like a shortcake looking thing. Though in reality, I'm not sure what pieces of metal are going to be 3 inches in diameter and 1 inch tall. That's quite a lot of metal, especially in a sort of robotics project, I think. But that is one application of circles that's pretty important. Occasionally, you're going to need circles to make things like this that have flat tops and flat bottoms and round sides. But the other application of circles, which is going to be extremely common, and especially if you are sketching parts of things, is going to be making like basically metal plates with holes in them. So say we extrude this by 0.125 inches. I'm pretty sure that's a standard thickness for plates of metal that you can get. It might be slightly thinner, but not super relevant to demonstrating this idea. Is we have our plate of metal, and say we want to make a hole in it to represent a place that a bolt can go through, right? Now, if I remember correctly, one of the standard sizes for bolt holes that come in plates that I've seen in drawings on AndyMark is about 0.21 inches. So say we make a hole that's 0.21 inches. Great! How do we make this an actual hole in the thing? Well, if you go to the Solid tab, click Extrude, and maybe a little unintuitive, and you click on the thing you want to extrude, you change Operation to Cut, and then you either drag down sufficiently far, or you change Extent Type to To Object, and you select the plane that this cut is going to go until. In this case, we want it to go all the way through, so we click the underside. And then we can click OK. Amazing. We've just made a single hole. Now, typically in plates of metal, you're going to want more than one hole, I think. So here's how you add more of them. So if we go back to Edit Sketch number 2, here's something we can do, and it should automatically make a bunch of holes after we edit this sketch. I'm pretty sure, but we're going to see if that's what happens. So here's how you add more. I just clicked on a thing in the sketch menu, and it's possible this doesn't appear. If it doesn't, type S and then type RECT. Rectangular pattern should come up pretty quickly. I believe the one you want to select is this one, I think. No, it's the other one, my bad. So select this, type S, RECT, the one with the non-filled in boxes. Let's just center this so it's a little more visible. And now what you can do is you can drag these arrows to sort of make it obvious that duplicate circles are being made. And then you can start changing numbers on things. So first, here's one important thing. By default, the distance type should be set to extent. But typically, this is not going to be what you want because often the distances of like the holes relative to each other are not going to be from one end all the way to the other. They're going to be between holes. And usually in sketches, if you're CADing something from a sketch, it's going to be implied that all the holes of a certain like set are going to be the same distance from each other unless indicated otherwise. So switch distance type. Typically, there may be some exceptions, in which case you should be able to figure out whether or not it's an exception. But in most cases, you're going to want to change it to spacing. And in this case, say that I want to space all of my holes from each other by 1 inch. So we'll do -1 inch for this one, and positive 1 inch, not 0.1 inches, on that one. Now, here is something that we need to change. By default, it will create a total of 3 holes, the original plus 2 others, and if you decide to go in another direction, it'll basically square that, right? So currently we're set to have 9 holes. However, we want a few more on this side over here, and we don't want as many down here. So if we click on this arrow, or if we go to here, we can change this number to 2, and it will update it. And if we go up here, we can change this number to 4. Though it may be easier, I don't think it's very intuitive which one of these corresponds to which axis, so you can just click on the arrow and then adjust the number here if you need to. And then also if you, this is not what we want. But we have created a sufficient number of holes, and hopefully it's clear how we did that. So now we click OK, and we finish the sketch. It didn't actually update. Okay, so that's not how that works. So let's go back into this sketch, right? Here's what we can do now. Actually, if we back up, yeah, this is probably fine. Okay. So if we select all of these holes, we really should have done the extrusion, undone the extrusion earlier, but this should be fine. So now we can select all these holes. We can hit extrude. Oh, my bad. We have to select all of these retroactively. We can select the 7 that we did not extrude yet. And typically, there's probably a faster way to do this. But the important thing here is you change the operation to cut because we want to make holes, right? Then we once again change extent type to object. We select the underside, and then we click OK. And perfect, we have the other 7 holes that we did not have previously, and we're just going to hide this sketch because it looks a little ugly, right? So now we have our plate of metal with a bunch of holes. Amazing. That's how you do that, because when CADing, creating holes is a thing that you're going to do all of the time, and it's really important to be able to do that. Okay, so the second thing that I wanted to discuss in this video, which is the latter part of this video's title, is the idea of having spheres and other like rotational around an axis of rotation figures, right? So say we create a sketch in the base plane again, and we create another circle. Let's just say it's 3 inches in diameter. And then we draw a circle down the center. And by the way, what I did here is I selected the center point of the circle, then I dragged up. You can see the dotted line probably, and I just click the top of the circle. And the X indicates, and especially if it snaps and it doesn't move very much when you move your mouse around in a small box around it, you know that it's like snapped onto the middle point. So we click and we drag all the way down. 3 inches, that makes sense because it's a 3-inch diameter circle. And then we hit escape a couple times, maybe finish sketch. Here's what we can do now. Go to the solid tab. Click revolve, click one of the halves, then click axis. You can either click the x-axis, but we made this line, and in a lot of other cases, the figures you make may not necessarily be situated on the origin. So we click the line that we drew, and that's our axis of revolution. It automatically does 360 degrees, though if we wanted to, we could, I guess, make this not a full sphere. But for the purposes here, let's just make this a full sphere. It's a little bit finicky. Let's just make this 360. Okay. And that is a way to make a sphere. Now, we should also touch on other objects that are made via revolution around a central axis. Here, as an example, let's just draw a vertical line here. Doesn't really matter how long it is. And then we put a circle. Say, how about we draw a line that's like 4 inches long, and then we place a circle here that has a 2-inch diameter, right? Then say we orient this. Yes, this is the down-facing plane. Then we click on this circle. Here's what we can do. Go to Solid tab, click Revolve, select the axis once you've selected the profile, and look at that. We've just created a massive torus. Torus is huge. Well, I guess it looks kind of huge. It's not really that big. This line is only 4 inches. This isn't any wider than, say, a pool ring, I would guess, maybe a little bit bigger. But that's how you make toruses, among other rotating shapes. And you don't have to use a circle to demonstrate this. We can go back here, and we can create a polygon. Let's just say, I don't know, how do we want to do this? We'll create a hexagon, and we'll click this and rotate it around this axis. And there we go. We have a hexagonal torus. But that's how you make tori or toruses. I think it's tori. That would make sense. Kind of like cacti instead of cactuses. But those are all the topics that I wanted to cover in this video. So to run through all of those again, we talked about making holes in metal sheets using the rectangular, oops, I didn't mean to click that, the rectangular pattern. So we click on this, we expand, we make sure it's set to spacing, we input the number of, wow, these are really small. We input the number of circles that we want. So like 4 and 2 was in our previous example, and then we can press enter. My bad, I need to select this actually, and unselect the point in the middle. And then we hit OK, and it creates a bunch of circles that we can use to make a cut in a metal sheet. And then the other thing we did is we created a circle and a torus, by which, and we also had a midline, by which we revolved around the central axis and created a sphere. Let me just create this again for the sake of the demonstration. That's how you do these things. These are going to be things that come up. I think that the putting holes in things is going to come up more often than creating things like spheres or toruses. But creating spheres and toruses can be a sort of entertaining thing to do as well. So that's all I wanted to cover in this video. That is circles, spheres, and toruses.